Nikki Chambrello, driver of the 4 squared SK Light. You say 4 squared because you drove the 16, the street stocks,
Yes.
a couple years ago. So before we talk about this year, what got you started in racing?
So it kind of family tradition. My uncle raced at Stafford back in the early 90s, and when I was a kid, my dad brought me to a quarter midget track, Silver City in Meriden, and he was like, oh, is this something you want to do? And in the moment, I was like, no, absolutely not. That looks terrifying. But it took me about a year to warm up to the idea, and I started when I was about 8 years old.
Why were you so terrified?
I don't know, I saw the cars. I think I might have saw somebody wreck, and it was one of those things where you're like 6 or 7 years old, you're like, oh my gosh, no, that looks terrifying. I don't know what my initial thoughts were, but like I said, I came around to the idea, and when the minute I told my dad, you know what, maybe I'll give it a shot, he had a car, he had the trailer, he had everything, so.
Oh. So how were you doing in the quarter midgets?
I did extremely well in the quarter midgets. I raced them for about 5, almost 6 years. We did about 4 years at Silver City, the last one. We did a lot of traveling, so I raced in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, we drove down to Georgia, we drove to Ohio, and we did extremely well, yeah.
So what was next after that?
It was the street stocks, or the dare stocks actually at
they
the
were
time.
called dare stocks
They were the
back
dare
then, yep.
stocks, yeah. So I got in the dare stock division at 15. Basically, it was totally new, completely different from the style of driving I was used to in the quarter midgets. I had to learn how to drive that kind of car because it's like driving a boat. Doesn't stop, doesn't turn, doesn't want to do anything that you want it to do. But yeah. I think, learning how to drive that style of car definitely made me better. And, the dare stocks, they eventually turned them into the street stocks. They got faster, They changed the division quite a bit for the time that I was in it, to like from the beginning to end.
What was it like going to the SK Lights then?
Completely different. It was like I did a total 180 from the quarter midgets to street stocks, and then all the habits I learned in the street stocks I'm now unlearning in the SK Lights. Everyone always told me that it would have been a lot easier of a transition to go from quarter midgets to the SK Light. It's very similar, a lot of grip, very similar types of cars in the way that they drive and the way that they handle.
Right.
So now it was like everything I learned in the quarter midgets I had to take and evolve to drive the street stocks, and then from the street stocks to the SK, it's like I had to, evolve it again.
Right.
So, yeah.
So how do you feel about how this year has gone so far for you?
I don't want to say it's been hard, because it's not that it's been hard. It's definitely been challenging. It's my second season. Obviously last year, everyone knows we had a really, really bum motor in the car. We were down a cylinder all season, but we couldn't afford to put a motor in it until the beginning of this year.
Right.
So now getting the new motor, and now, actually starting to figure out, things with the car, driving styles, how to just race with these guys. There's a lot of talent in this division, and it's just a completely different driving style. So, I'm getting used to it.
Out of the different cars that you've raced in your career, which one's your favorite type of car?
That's such a hard question, because I love them all for different reasons. Because the streets,
one.
I know, because I raced the quarter midgets when I was a kid, so like that was just my first ever race car. So then, you get your very first win of the beginning of everything, and that's crazy. And then you get into the street stocks, and I feel, you're actually wheeling that car around the corner, and it's like, it's a lot of driving, it's a lot of back and forth, save the car, catch the car, gas brake, and then these cars, a lot more, it's a lot easier handling wise, but it's a completely different division. Now we're dealing with a lot of momentum and a lot of talent, the drivers are insane. So I don't know, I'd probably say this one, it's been the most challenging and I think the most rewarding at the same time.
Gotcha.
So.
Favorite driver to race against at Stafford?
To race against?
Yeah.
Ooh. That's so hard. If I want to throw it back to my street stock days, driving with Johnny Walker was insane.
Really?
Yeah, insane. He is such a wheelman. He was so good.
Yeah.
I had a lot of great battles with him and just a lot of respect both ways. Yeah. I would throw his name out there. We had a lot of fun.
Favorite race car driver in your lifetime at the top level, whether it's Cup, F1, IndyCar, that you've seen?
That I've seen?
Yeah. Not someone from the 70s.
Not someone from the 70s. I come from a family of big Earnhardt Jr. fans, so I would throw him out. Also, Joey Logano. He's from Connecticut. He raced at Silver City, so that's kind of cool. a little homegrown kind of guy, but.
So outside of racing, what are some of your favorite hobbies?
I'm really into, you know this, I'm really into gaming. Me and Bonssa, we game together sometimes. I don't know, other than that, it's just the racing. I work, hang out with friends. I'm like a normal person, I would say, right outside of all of this.
So you are a gamer.
Yes.
Play video
you know
games.
That.
But how did you get into gaming? Because it's not just you.
No. So, I don't know, my dad's always been into it as well. I mean, he gamed since like the beginning of like
back when computers were dinosaurs.
Yeah, dinosaurs, absolutely. So like, I don't know, he's always been into it. So then like at the same, so we always had like, it was always around, you know, there's always games to play. So we always got into it. We had like PlayStations and all that. I mean, it wasn't that serious. It still isn't really, but
how competitive can you guys be?
When we're playing against each other, pretty competitive. It's the same here. You don't race, you don't do all this stuff if you're not competitive. So.
How about your favorite movie or TV show?
Ooh. Can I be like really basic? Like
how
season
basic?
2 of Outer Banks just came out. That made me antisocial for like a day and a half.
Kyle, Ricky, and Teddy Hodger were talking about that in their sit-down interview as well.
Yeah, that made me antisocial for like a day and a half. I just sat in my room and I was just like, yeah, I would say right now that's been the big one.
So to end it off, what is your favorite thing about racing?
Oh, it's, God, probably. It is such a, I wouldn't want to call it a love-hate because it's not what it is. I never hate it, but it's just the trials and the tribulations, you know, you can get wrecked, you know, the uncertainties, you know, you're working yourself up, you're trying to make your plans, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, who's in front of you, who's around you, and then you get wrecked on the first lap, you know, like a month and a half ago, you don't even make it to turn 1. You know, stuff like that, and it's just the heartbreak. But then, you know, when you do succeed and you pull stuff off that you never thought you could, and, you know, you're rewatching these videos of, like, yourself driving and winning and doing all this stuff, being like, I don't even think when I do that. Like, I know a lot of this, like, a good example would be when I rolled over in 2018, when I was skidding to the wall, you know, into my doom, basically. I shifted the car into neutral, saved the transmission. I didn't even think about doing that.
Huh.
You
Second
know?
nature, huh?
Yeah, like crazy stuff that you don't even think about that I didn't even know that I did until I watched the video, you know, and then other people called out and they were just like, wow, what a pro move.
Really?
But yeah, so like it's like I said, it's not a love-hate, it's just, you know, the highs and the lows. It's insane.
Yeah.
Because when you actually pull something off and you get those wins or you do stuff, it's just like the highest of highs, and, you know, nothing comes close to it, basically.